designs. Remember, don't forget. Now, can I have a 100-inch shell ID with 3000 PSIG design pressure? No, we cannot have it. TEMA again says one more standard. The multiplication of shell ID into design pressure is limited to 100,000. That means if your shell ID is 100-inch, your design pressure cannot exceed 1000 PSIG. This is standard. Remember, very, very important. So when you design a heat exchanger, you cannot just like design, okay, I'm going to have a big design, okay, I'm going to have 120, 130. No, standard doesn't allow it. Only 100-inch. Clear? And the product should be 100,000 inch. And the thickness is limited to 3 inch. Okay. Now, if you see the heat exchangers, generally, when you go to the industries, there will be something called R or C or B. So whenever you see R, that means it is a severe requirements are there by petrol, generally used in refineries and petrochemical industries. R, that is where it is called as R. So whenever you see a heat exchanger that is R, that is mean it has been made with a lot of stringent rules and guidelines. That is called R. Then when you see a stamp called C stamp, then that means it is used in a commercial or general process application. Maybe your maybe your cooler. You see a heat exchanger in a mall or somewhere. It can be a C stamp. And there is something called chemical industries, batch industries. It is in between. It is not that much stringent or that much little bit free. It is in between. That is called B. So these are all standards. So R, C, B. So this is when you go to the industry, when you see that stamp, the exchanger is designed based on that. Now we are going to go in detail, very, very in detail, right? Shell and tube, major parts of shell and tube heat exchangers. What are the major parts? Okay, so tube, you have tubes. You can see here. I hope you can see my mouse. So these are all the tubes. This is called as tube sheet. Tube sheet. And whatever you see in between, this is called baffles. Baffles. This is shell. This is channel. So these are all some of the most important part of a heat exchanger. Shell, tubes, tube sheet, and the baffles. The distance between two baffles is called as baffle clearance. And okay, I will discuss everything in further in coming slides. You will know more and more on all these things. Shell, carbon steel, stainless steel, titanium are common material. You cannot see, these are all very, very common. Monal. So these are all the common materials that we used to make shell. Carbon steel, stainless steel, titanium, carbon cladded with the stainless steel. So remember, just I'm giving you some hints because you will not see other exchanges doesn't mean that it is not there. It is there, but it is not common. We are dealing with refineries and petrochemicals. These are all very, very common type of MOCs. You should know what are the MOCs. These are very common type of MOCs. Shell is the container of the shell fluid, the shell side fluid. And so the shell diameter should be designed to make sure the tube bundle is kept inside. So this is a very high level about shell. And as I said in the earlier, the shell, what is the limitation as per the TEMA standard? The limitation is around 100-inch. The design pressure is 3000 PSIG. So these are all the design limitations. So this is shell of a heat exchanger. Now, very, 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 very important. We are going to discuss about the tube. So tube may be seamless or welded. Seamless tubes are being produced by extrusion process. Mostly in a heat exchanger, you will see seamless. Okay, and welding you will not see much. Whenever you see exotic materials like titanium, the welding in the tubes you will see. Why weldings are not mainly preferred? Because weldings are prone to leak, so we have to avoid welding. Clear? So, but welded tubing is usually more economical. It's more economical. Now, remember, when you size a heat exchanger, you need to have some basics, some standard in your hand, then only you have to size it. You have to assume something. So the tube diameter can vary from 3 by 4, can vary from 5 by 8 to 2 inch. It can go anything in between that. But remember, standard normally 70 to 80, 90% I have seen we will be taking in between 3 by 4 or 1 inch. Please make note of it. So whenever you see something highlighted and bold, this is standard. Okay. So when you do a heat exchanger, you need to do assumption. You need to do trial and error. So the first and foremost thing, most important thing, selecting the diameter of the tube. So you need to select 3 by 4 inch or 1 inch. Okay, that is how you need to start your run. Now, tubes of smaller diameters can be used, but they are more difficult to clean. Just imagine, now I want you to imagine from your engineering point of view. Smaller tubes means smaller bundle. Smaller bundle means smaller heat exchanger. So it is very good. Smaller tubes are going to, from economical point of view, I'm going to go for a smaller heat exchanger. It is good. At the same time, smaller tubes may lead to more pressure drop. Suppose I don't have much pressure in my system, so I cannot go for a smaller tube. So that is one thing. And another thing, when there is a smaller tubes, and if there is some fouling is happening, it is very difficult to clean. So there is, okay, what is fouling? We will discuss. Okay, for time being, just fouling, you just think about in your shower. If you have salt water, when you open the shower, you can see sometimes scaling is formed, right? So imagine something like that. That is called as fouling. So when something is happening in the tubes, it is difficult to clean, right? So that is the reason that we cannot go for a smaller tubes. So the tubes of larger diameter sometimes are very good because I need to clean my fluid seems to be fouling. I need to clean. I need to go for it. And at the same time, I don't have enough pressure drop. I don't want to have more pressure drop. Exchanger at the column overhead of a distillation column, you cannot afford lot of pressure drop. If there is a pressure drop, you may have upset the column profile itself. So those exchangers don't have any pressure margins. So you need to design with very low pressure drops. So again, if there is more pressure drop, you may add a lot of energy in your fluid hydraulics. So there is some limitations. I will tell you everything. What is the limitations so for time being, make a note of it. But once you finish the slides, you will know everything. That is what in my job to make you understand. So for time being, remember tube 3 by 4 inch to 1 inch and 1 inch. These are the two options. Generally use it. The tube thickness. So when you see the data sheet, there is something called BWG, Birmingham wire gauge. This is what you see in the data sheet. So what is this Birmingham wire gauge? So this is called as a standard thickness. So it can go from anything. If you see the standard, you have many thickness. But again, normally thickness will be 12 to 16. Remember, 12 to 16. It can be, so that is what we do it. We change it, we will take it anything between 12 to 16. So that is how we do this, we will take the thickness. Now, another important thing, if you go for titanium, expensive materials, the thickness, the BWG Birmingham wire gauge will be 18 to 20. 18 to 20 will be for your titanium and 12 to 16. Why 18 to 20? Remember, more the Birmingham wire gauge, the less the thickness. More, if the number is more, the thickness is very less, right? More the number, less the thickness. So titanium is very, very expensive. We don't want to go for a bigger thick tubes. That is why in titanium, you go between 18 to 20 BWG, right? Clear? Now, I will give you the standard. Now, another question from a student, I'm just telling you. Anup was told, okay, I'm going to take 1 inch and anything between 12 to 16 inch. Okay, I'm going to take 13. Can I do it? No. Okay. we are going to see now in the next slide. Even I told you the standard, we generally take it from 12 to 16. It depends on the type of material, the tube material. The tube can be copper or copper nickel alloys, carbon steel, aluminum alloys or other alloys. So these are all very, very common types of materials. What I'm showing you here is TEMA standard again. TEMA standard RCB 2.112. So again, I said what I said, you can take 3x4 or 1 inch, right? So if you take 3x4 copper, you don't have 12, you have 16, right? So you are allowed to take only 16. So these are all the only availability. This is standard availability. So Anup told 12 to 16, I will take 13. And if you take copper nickel alloy, there is no such thing called 13. You need to stick in these 3 values. So in the 3 value, what is the best value to be selected? 16. Okay. Now, if you are going to go for carbon steel or other alloys, aluminum or other alloys, you can go for 12 to start, and you can go anywhere maximum up to 16. Remember, outer diameter is constant. What? Outer diameter is constant. It is 1 inch. 1 inch is the OD. Outer diameter is constant. Thickness is varying. That means ID will vary. When the ID is reduced, what will happen? Heat transfer coefficient will increase. How heat transfer coefficient is increased when the ID is reduced? When the ID is reduced, there is more turbulence, there is no pressure drop. More pressure drop, more velocity, more turbulence, so more heat transfer, right? So lesser the ID, remember, lesser the ID, more the pressure drop, more the velocity, more the heat transfer coefficient. But the negative side, you are losing, you are having excess of amount of pressure drop, right? So that is another limitation. And fouling, if they want to clean the fluid, if the ID is less, I cannot do it. So this is the reason that we have decided this 12 to 16, we should take it. So if you go for 1 inch, same thing. If I'm going to for carbon steel, I cannot take 16. I have option to take 12 or 14. So I hope it is clear, right? Now, another question. What is this 12? What is this 16? Right? Engineers may ask, what is this? Okay, he told 12, he told 16. What is that? Again, this is a standard. What happened? Okay. Standard. See, the 12 means the thickness is 2.769 mm. I told you, the more the number, less the thickness. 16 is 1.651. So, more the number, less the thickness. What I told for the titanium, you have to go for 18 to 20. So 18 is 1.245. More the number, less the thickness. These are all standard. So I hope till now it is clear, right? Now we are going to deal more and more about heat exchangers. Please make note of it. The most efficient condition for heat transfer is to have maximum number of tubes in the shell, maximum number of tubes in the shells to increase the turbulence. So as I said, more the number of tubes, I need to have more turbulence, I need to create it. So by intention, in a heat exchanger, I need to create more number of tubes. To create more number of tubes, I need to have a smaller dia, right? I need to have a smaller dia. So this is my first intention. Now, how do I know my flow rate, I know my diameter. There is something called velocity I need to maintain. You will not find these in many of the literature. This has come with experience. This has come with a lot of case studies. Remember, an engineer, when you do a heat exchanger design, you need to maintain all these things. Then only it will be a correct design. I am telling you, till now, many people who are designing heat exchangers, they are not aware of these things. But when you become a designer, once you pass the college, when you go to the industry, when you design it, I want you to please consider all these things. The liquid, when you are thinking the liquid, you are passing liquid your velocity shall be in between 3 to 5 feet per second. 3 to 5 feet per second. This is a standard. Remember, this is a standard. Why? I will tell you when you deal about fouling, you will understand why this velocity is important. Okay, all this comes with lot of experience and comes with a lot of incidents, failure of exchanges. More the velocity, if the velocity is more, what will happen? The tube will start to have vibration. When there is vibration, the tube will fail. And remember, if you are handling a ethylene or a propylene, a highly flammable gas, and the exchanger tube is broken and the flammable liquid comes out, it can be a catastrophic. So remember, you cannot afford those type of failures in your exchanger. So when you are dealing with liquid, you need to have 3 to 5 feet per second. Make note of it. And when you're dealing with gas, it should be between 50 to 100 feet per second. Now, how can I maintain this velocity? This velocity has to be, you can change this velocity by increasing the number of passes. So this is how the passes comes into exchanger. What is passes? Okay, I wanted to concentrate very clearly because people who have not seen exchangers, it will be little bit confusing for them. Please listen. So this is, I'm going to deal about tube pass. Okay, this is called as pass partition in exchanger. This is called as pass partition. So when I send all the liquid will not go to this side. The liquid will be stopped by this pass partition, and the liquid will pass through this, and it will enter this. So this is called as pass. One pass, two pass. One pass like this, and two pass like this inside the tubes, right? Tubes. The liquid will pass through all these tubes, will come out of this, and it will pass through these tubes. So this is called as tube pass. So you have to increase the passes to maintain this velocity. One option is you can play with the diameter, but again, I told you, you cannot play much with the diameter. You are limited by 3 by 4 or 1 inch. Or again, you have to go more or less. Once you play with this pass partitions, based on this only, you have to do other changes of changing your diameters. So for maintaining the velocity, you need to increase your passes. Normally, when you start a heat exchanger, normally you always go for 2 pass liquid. Start with 2 pass. This is a normal standard. Make note of it. Okay. So you increase. Sometimes you have 2 pass. Sometimes you have 6 pass, 4 pass, 8 pass. You can have up to 12 passes. We can have it in a heat exchanger, but not more than that. Okay, so far it is clear. So if it is not clear, I can explain you in detail. This is very critical, and from here onwards, we are going to deal more and more technical. So I want every engineers to kindly concentrate, because otherwise, if you don't listen or if you don't understand, you will not understand anything from here onwards. So please concentrate. Now, tube length. Tube length is limited based on your plant layout and pressure drop constraint. There are some advantage of tube length. If I have longer the tube length, what happens? I need to have lesser the shell diameter, right? So there is an advantage is there. And another problem, the longer the tube, maybe more the pressure drop. So that is also there. So you have, there is a trade-off. Whether to go for longer, how long, and longer the tube, lesser the diameter, lesser the cost. Longer the tube, more the pressure drop, and sometimes you may have to have some additional hydraulic systems to overcome that. That is not correct. At the same time, there could be some limitations in your plant layout. I cannot have it just like that. So there are some limitations. So, to meet the design pressure drop constraint, as I said, we may need to increase or decrease the tube length. Clear? Next. So what are the tube length? Again, please make note of it. There are standard. I can go anything. No. There are standard. You cannot go just like that. So it's simple to remember. Tube length 6. Just remember the first number is 6. Then it is 4 table. 8. 4 2s are 8. 12, 16, 20, 24. These are all the standard length. Okay, you have to play with only with that. If it is 6, you put the 6 line tube length as 6, and you are getting some, you do some economics in the pressure drop. If it is not meeting your requirement, then you need to go for 8. Then you need to go for 6, 12. I cannot go for 10. No, it doesn't allow. Okay, so this is how the standards. Remember, 6, then 8, 12, 16, 20, 24. Remember, this is important. The longer the tube reduces the shell diameter at the expense of higher pressure drop. Clear? Suppose to increase heat transfer coefficients, we may put some tube inserts, but again, I'm not deal because I don't want to complicate much. These are all advanced. So there can be something called tube inserts. We'll do it to increase the turbulence and to increase the heat transfer coefficient. So that is also there. Then most important thing, what are the tubes? I said you can have brass, copper, bronze, alloys of copper, right? And most important, copper nickel alloy are most commonly used in industries. Okay, most commonly used industries are copper nickel alloys. Make note of it. Now we are going to deal another important, very important, something called tube pitch. Okay, tube pitch. What is tube pitch? So this is called as tube sheet, right? This is tube sheet. So how the tubes are arranged in the tube sheet, this is called as tube pitch. Tube pitch is how the tubes are arranged in the tube sheet. Now here, this particular example, if you see, it is arranged in triangular. See, everywhere it is triangular pitch, right? So this is called as triangular pitch. So we will see how to select this pitch and how to calculate the pitch of the tubes as per the standard. Now, tube pitch itself, it is the shortest distance between the adjacent tubes. From the center to center between two tubes, the distance that is called as pitch. Remember, pitch is the distance center to center. This is called as pitch. Now, generally, there are two types of patterns. This pitch is being patterned. One is triangular and one is square. Triangular and square. Remember, only two, triangular and square. Triangular are the most effective, and it provides robust construction because when there is a triangular, everything has its advantage and disadvantage. With the triangular, see in the drawing it looks like so far, but in actual the triangular means it's very close. All these tubes are very close. So what happens in the same tube sheet, you can put more number of tubes. Okay, and your shell diameter will come down. So that is an advantage. But there is a disadvantage because when the tubes are very close, the shell side fluid, when it passes through this tubes, you will have more pressure drop will be there, more pressure drop. Sometimes, as I told you, sometimes there is a process limitations. You cannot have more pressure drops, right? So you cannot. So the triangular pattern, when you have some limitation on your shell side pressure drop, you cannot use triangular pitch. And at the same time, if there is a fouling fluid, I have to clean my shell, but the gaps are very close, very close. I cannot clean. So when you have a fouling, when you want to clean, when you think that I have to take my exchanges out and clean it, you cannot use triangular. Okay. So when your shell side, remember, when your shell side fluid is a fouling fluid, we cannot use triangular. And when you have some limitations on your shell side fluid, pressure drop limitations, we cannot use triangular. So pressure drop limitations I cannot use. Remember, if there is a shell side, forget about tube. Shell side, I have pressure drop, I cannot use. If the shell is fouling, I cannot use. With other than these two reasons, for every reason you have to use tubular pattern only because that is more rigid, that is going to be more economical. Remember, because people make mistakes actually. People make a lot of mistakes. We have seen industries, people unnecessarily they do wrong design and the exchanger cost is exorbitantly going high. Whatever you are going to do here, so I believe when you become designer, you are going to do a perfect design. See, this is the important things. When you have a very clean fluid, I have a, for example, I have a ethylene or a methanol or ethanol, very clean, it's not a fouling fluid. And I don't have pressure limitations. But people will always try to go for square pitch. No, we cannot go. If the square pitch, the gaps between the two tubes are very big and you need to, so when there is a more gap, you need to have more shell diameter. When there is more shell diameter, bigger the exchanger. Bigger the exchanger, just imagine the big exchanger, not only your direct cost, there will be indirect cost also. The foundation of the exchanger will be heavy, will be bigger. Exchangers are heavy. Transportation the exchanger, your transportation cost will be heavy. So there is a lot of limitations, lot of additional cost will be there. So as a designer, we have to reduce the cost of the exchanger and we have to reduce the size of exchanger also. So when there is a clean fluid, always when there is clean fluid and there is no limitation in the pressure drop, go for triangular pitch only. Now just opposite to that is square pitch, square pattern. So when you have, I see, okay, I cannot afford lot of pressure drop. Yeah, you have no choice. You have to go for a square pattern, square type of pitch. Okay. And when I want to clean my shell with a fouling fluid, I have crude oil. Crude oil in the shell side. Crude oil is a highly fouling, so I'm going to sell the shell side. Again, I need to clean. Yes, in that case, yes, you need to go for a square pitch. So remember, these are the reason we have to go for square pitch and triangle pitch. It can be rotated also. This is called as a rotated square pitch. So rotated square, and even the triangular pitch can be rotated. It is called as a rotated triangular pitch. Why rotated means based on the flow pattern. The flow is this. This is called as normal triangular pitch. And according to the flow, if it is rotated, it's rotated triangular pitch. So other than that, everything is same. Concept remains same. Only based on the flow pattern, it can be rotated or it can be straight. So square pitch.
Yes. Sir, any particular case we are prefer rotated square?
Again, rotated square, again, it is being preferred based on, it is you can have a square or rotated based on the flow orientation.
Okay.
It doesn't
usually we prefer the fouling liquids on tube side, right?
Okay. There are many things. Okay, we have a detailed topic on this. You will understand many things. Fouling fluid, why I have to be in the tube side? Sometimes corrosive fluids and viscosity fluids. Okay, high viscous fluids are mainly fouling. So there will be a lot of contradictions are there. I will tell you when there is a detailed discussion on this fluid allocation. Why? What is the importance of fluid allocations? With the case study, everything is there. So once you finish this presentation, I believe you will get some good idea on this.
Okay, sir.
Okay. I'm happy they're asking questions. So let's proceed. Now, standard. Remember, we are going to discuss about standard. So the pitch, what is the distance? So what are the recommended values of pitch? Again, the minimum recommended value for a triangular pitch. For a triangular pitch is 1.25 into OD of the diameter of the tube. Diameter of the tube into 1.25. This is the minimum recommendation. So if the OD is 1 inch, I said 3/4 or 1 inch standard, take it. So 1 inch if you take, the pitch is, see, 1.25 into 25.4 is 31.8. So this is, so the pitch, so this is how the recommended pitch value. Clear? Now the square pitch. Square pitch, there is a standard. The standard is the minimum clearance between the adjacent tubes for cleaning is minimum clearance is 6.4 mm. So between the two tubes, the distance between the two tubes should be 6.4. So the standard says that the tube pitch can be 1.25 into outer diameter, or the pattern or is coming, or the tube diameter plus 6.4. So whichever it is bigger, tube diameter plus 6.4 and at 1.25, whichever it is going to be the bigger, you have to go for it. So for example, if you are going to take 1 inch, I'm going to do the same example. 1.25 into this, I'm getting 31.8, right? Same thing, 2.25.4 into 6.4, I'm getting 31.8. So this is the reason I'm telling you, typically the pitch value is 1.25. Make note of it. Make note of it. Just I've given this example to make you understand why this 1.25. Whenever you see the pitch, they will say, okay, go start with 1.25. Why? This is how the standard comes to. Okay, so 1.25 is a standard. For if you have turbulent flow, you can go up to 1.35, but recommended is 1.5. And if it is a laminar flow, you need to go for 1.4. Again, these are all standards. Please make note of it. You don't see laminar flow, very, very rare. Heat exchanger will always see turbulent flow, so it will be from 1.25 to 1.35, and the standard is 1.25. Clear? And one more thing I want to request, see, this topic is like a chain of, pearls, okay, chain of, you have a necklace with pearls. What will happen if you break the necklace, the pearls will fall down, right? So everything is related to one another. So if you join in between, I believe you will not understand anything. So any seminars, technical seminars, I humbly request all engineers to join in the beginning itself. Otherwise, you will not understand. If you join in between, you will not understand many of the things. So you are losing. So I request, at least from tomorrow, make sure if you are interested to attend the seminar, attend from the beginning. Otherwise, there is no point. Just like that, you come and go. And remember, whatever we are talking, whatever we are giving, it is very, very, very informative to you, which you will not see any of the literatures. This comes with standards. You have to work with companies and you have to deal with the failures, why there has been failed. So that is how it all comes. So I request every engineers to be attend the seminar, if any seminar, not this seminar, any seminar from the industrial experts, somebody is discussing, attend from the beginning. Don't join in between. Okay. Now you understand about the tubes, you understand about the tube pitch. Okay, the tube pitch generally go for 1.5 inch. Okay, tube velocity, if I want to go for velocity for the liquid, how much? 3 to 5 feet per second. Okay, so remember all these things, it's very important. Now, another, and you understand about the triangular pitch, rotated triangular pitch. Rotated triangular pitch or triangular pitch are same, only the flow orientation. Based on the flow orientation, based on the exchanger, I can have rotated or a triangular. So really nothing going to matter. It's an option in HTRI or EDR. They give you an option. You can go for it. 60 degree or 30 degree. I don't want to complicate much on these things. So for time being, understand triangular pitch, square pitch. Always go for triangular pitch if your fluid is clean and you have more pressure drop margin in your shell side fluid. Go with triangular. When you don't go for triangular, with heavy fouling, if you have shell side is fouling fluid, you have it, and you don't have enough pressure limitations, then you have to go for square. Pitch, this pitch is 1.25. Diameter of the tube, you have to think about 3/4 or 1 inch. So remember, this is. Now another important, very, 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 very important thing we are going to deal about, baffles. What is baffles? You can see here, right? This is called baffles. So in between exchangers, something called this blue color, right? You can see my mouse. So this is called as baffles. Very, 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 very important. Very important. Baffles. Now, what are the baffles in heat exchanger used for? What is the purpose of these baffles? So I want you to go to a heat exchanger. Once you have this corona is finished, when you go to the college, you may have your industrial heat exchangers in your college. Go through it and see it, and you will feel it, why it is there. The main purpose of baffles is to support tubes in the heat exchanger. Number one, it has to support tubes in the heat exchanger. Number two, to enhance heat transfer by directing the flow through the shell in the desired pattern. I have to direct my flow in a desired pattern. So can you see here? Flow comes like this. The flow comes like this. It goes like this, goes like this. So I am doing that, right? So what I am doing it? To enhance the heat transfer by directing the flow through the shell in a desired pattern, number 2. Number 3, baffles are used to increase the fluid velocity by diverting the flow across the tube bundle to obtain the higher heat transfer coefficient. So baffles are increased to velocity, increase the velocity. So what will happen if I increase the velocity? Remember, when you increase the velocity, we will increase the heat transfer coefficient, right? So baffles are used to increase the tube velocity. Another important thing, standard, people do mistake. Again, exchanges have failed because of these mistakes. The tube support, and you should have a tube, the maximum, the length of the tube without any support is 1.5 meter. Remember, maximum is 1.5 meter to avoid flow-induced vibration. Flow-induced vibration means, so you have tube, okay? So this the maximum unsupported tube. So the main purpose, the first purpose of the tube is for the baffle is to support the exchanger, tubes in the exchangers, right? So the maximum length is 1.5. Length between two baffle, it cannot be more than 1.5. If it is more than 1.5, there is studies happened and exchangers have failed. The flow induced vibration. The shell fluid is coming, the tube will start vibrating and it will fail. And remember what I said, you have ethylene, propylene, okay, highly flammable, or you have phosgene, highly toxic. If exchanger fails, kalas, that's it. It's a disaster. Many companies, many industries, there are a lot of disasters have happened. So remember these things. Your tube length should not be more than 1.5 meter to avoid flow-induced vibration. And the baffle spacing. Baffle spacing between, this is the baffle spacing, right? This baffle spacing, the minimum baffle spacing is 0.2 into shell diameter. So shell ID, you know the shell ID? This is the shell ID, right? Inside diameter of the shell. So what you do? Inside shell diameter into 0.2 into 0.2 is the minimum. And maximum is 1 shell ID. Maximum. Hello.
Excuse me, sir.
Yes.
Hello, sir. As you have mentioned that we use baffles to minimize the vibrations. So while designing the heat exchanger tubes, if we find materials which have very high frequency of vibration than to the regular fluid flowing through it, then we might not need the baffles, right?
What? I don't understand your question.
Means to reduce the vibrations in the tube, one needs baffles in the heat exchanger.
One of the reason is, see, as I said, baffles have many reasons. One of the primary reason, baffle used to support the tubes in the heat exchanger. See, if you see the diagram, the tubes are supported. Tubes will be supported with these baffles. So baffles are something like supporting the tubes. So when you have proper support, what will happen? Just imagine you have imagine a long, pipes, and you don't have support in between. It may have some vibrations, right? Now, in the same pipe, you have lot of support in between. The vibration will be reduced. So this is one of the reason. This is the purpose of the baffles. Okay. Now. So what is the minimum distance? The minimum I have to go, minimum distance is 0.2 into shell diameter. If the shell diameter is 10, just imagine shell diameter is 10 inch. 10 inch is the shell diameter. So 0.2 means that the minimum distance should be multiplied by 10 into 0.2. So 0.2 inch. That is the minimum. Minimum, you cannot go below that. The distance cannot go below that. Now, maximum distance, how much I can go? The ID is 10 inch. Just imagine, small, very small exchange. ID is 10 inch heat exchanger, 10 inch. The maximum is, you cannot go more than one time. One time means 10 inch. The distance between these two baffles cannot be more than 10 inch. So that is what the baffle spacing. should be 0.2 to 1 times the inside shell diameter is commonly used. So this is what we have to use it. Remember, 0.2 to 1. Again, supporting the tubes using the baffles to prevent the mechanical vibration that can result. So what will happen if there is no baffles? The tube will touch each other. There is, because of the vibration, each tube will touch each other. There will be mechanical vibration will be there and you rise to a failures. Lot of heat exchangers, I'm telling you, lots of heat exchangers have failed using vibrations. Vibration is another big topic. That is why HDRA came into picture. HDRA can predict those vibrations, flow-induced vibrations, acoustic-induced vibrations. Okay, now these are the standards. Remember, a tube length, a tube cannot, you need to do some support. That support can be a baffle, or that support you can have some, you can have some rods, tie rods, anything you can have and do it. You do whatever you want. That length shall not be more than 1.5. The tube has to be supported. The tube has to be supported by baffles or something else. You have the tie rods or plank or anything that you can do to support your tubes. The length shall not be more than 1.5. Within 1.5 meter, you need to have something to support. So that support can be baffle. Remember, and the distance between the baffle should be 0.2 to 1. Remember, 0.2 to 1 to avoid flow-induced vibration. Now, so I told you many things. One of the reasons for the baffles is to create more velocity, more turbulence, more velocity, more heat transfer coefficient. Right? So that is another purpose. Another important purpose of baffle is to divert the flow and the desired direction. And why I am diverting? I need to create more turbulence, and by creating more turbulence, I will create more heat transfer coefficient. So this is another purpose. Now, for this purpose, I have baffles, mainly segmental baffles. Majority of industries, if you see, segmental baffles are used. So what is segmental baffles? Now in the segmental baffles, you have single segmental and double segmental or triple segmental. So mainly you don't see the triple segmental, very rare to see. You will always see single segmental or double segmental. Single segmental means this is a single segmental, the flow will come like this, goes up, goes down. This is called a single segmental. Double segmental, the flow will come, it will divert and will go. It is called as double segmental. So you'll have, this is very commonly used. When you design it, this is what we generally use it. And some places you can have a triple segmental. Okay, I will answer why we have to go for double, why we need to go for single, triple, double, everything. In a coming slides, you will understand. Okay. Then there is something called no tubes in window segmental. So again, another problem, when there is a turbulence, the byproduct of turbulence is pressure drop. So when you have baffles, you will have pressure drop. Okay. So if sometimes your shell side fluid cannot afford much pressure drop. So that is why we are to go for something called no tubes in window segmental. So again here there is no, see, the baffle is only these three baffles. In between are rods, tie rods will be supporting. It is not baffles. Okay, it is supporting only the rods. So here it is called as no tubes in windows. So only one. So these type of baffles can be used, but what is the problem? It will not create much turbulence. It will create less pressure drop. So again, these are the different types. Now let us discuss a little bit in detail. As I said, commonly used single segmental and double segmental. Single segmental is the flow comes like this, it goes like this, right? You can see my mouse. Single segmental. So this is commonly used. Then another commonly used is double segmental. So double segmental, the flow will come, you have two segments. It will go, the flow will go in between, then the flow will split. Right? Single segmental and double segmental. You are, see, I am giving all these things so that you can visualize it. So try to visualize it. Now, you can ask me why I have to go for single segmental, why I have to go for double segmental. Again, You will not see in literature. It comes with experience. Mainly liquid. When you are dealing with liquid in your shell side, remember, when you are dealing with liquid in your shell side, single segmentals are more preferred. Single segmentals are more preferred. The problem with single segmental is you will have more pressure drop, and if it is more pressure drop, at the same time you have more heat transfer coefficient. Another problem is single segmental have more vibration. Okay, single segmental have more vibration also is there. So these are all this is the things. So the flow goes like this. So if I have liquid in the shell side, you should go for single segmental. And another thing, the problem with the single segmental, more pressure drop. But advantage of single segmental, more heat transfer coefficient. Since there is more pressure drop, more velocity, tend to have more vibration. Now, if you identify more vibration and more pressure drop, then you have to go for something like this, double segmental. So double segmental, generally you go for two-phase. You have a two-phase, the double segmental is always preferred. Remember, rule of thumb. People have designed, I've seen people have designed single segmental for two-phase. Eventually everything will fail, exchanger cost will be higher. So whatever we are saying, any modification that you are going to do in your design is going to save millions and millions of dollars in your company. That is why these courses are very important. I was telling Ananda, this is one of the most important courses. Distillation and heat transfer are the most important courses in any industries, because what you do here, you are going to save millions and millions in your industries. So we have to go for two-phase. When you go for two-phase, you can go for double segmental. So double segmental, and advantage of double segmental is less pressure drop. What is the disadvantage? Disadvantage is less heat transfer coefficient. But another advantage, since there is a less velocity and there is more support, see the tubes are more support. So what will happen eventually? You will have less vibration. This is double segmental. But again, with that also you have a lot of pressure drop. Then you have to go for no tubes in windows baffles. Okay, so this is another option. But yeah, it all depends on how much pressure drop margin you have it. You will decide based on this. Again, other than that, there are something called disc and donut baffles. Again, these are all proprietary baffles. Okay, normally heat exchanger companies like Loomis, they have, and some of proprietary companies which are designed mainly for the heat transfers, they have these type of specialized type of baffles. They proclaim it is good. Okay, but yeah, again, you need to have specialized calculation, specialized tool. So if you get an opportunity to work on the heat transfer industries, you may able to get all these information. But generally in the running industry, when it comes to specialized baffles, we don't have much information, because all these things are very much proprietary. Disc and donut, there is something called helical baffles are there, orifice type of baffles are there. So these are all different baffles. But normally industries, you will see segmental baffles. What I said in the previous, single segmental or double segmental. Clear? Now, very important and very confusing. Many people make mistake, and it is very confusing. Baffle cut. What is baffle cut? Baffle cut. So this is imagine the baffle cut means the empty space. Empty space is called as baffle cut. People always, I have seen industries, they think this is baffle cut. No, the baffle cut is the empty space. The empty space. Remember, don't forget. The empty space is called as baffle cut. The term is normally expressed in terms of percentage. The shell side diameter. So baffle will be the shell inside ID of the baffle. Okay, how do you prepare the baffle? They will take the ID of the shell and they prepare the baffle and they cut it. Okay, so how much percentage I need to cut it? That is called as baffle cut. That will be expressed in terms of percentage. So baffle cut will be in terms of percentage. The larger the cut, lower the pressure drop. However, this comes with the disadvantage of having heat transfer. I think I'm okay. Let me finish this baffles, then we will have question answer, then we will go for next session, next tomorrow. So baffles. So just imagine you have tube. You are gardening your water with a tube, and you close the tube with your thumb. What will happen? The water will eject fast. So the more you close, the more the water will eject. Less you close, the water velocity will come down. Same thing. The larger the cut, that means bigger the gap, lower the pressure drop. That means you remove your hand, the water will not come fast, right? So the larger the cut, the bigger the gap. Just imagine, from the pipe course, you are removing your thumb. The larger the cut, lower the pressure drop. However, this comes with the disadvantage of heat. So when there is a lower pressure drop, low heat transfer coefficient. Okay, and again, you have a lot of eddies will be formed. Okay, I will explain you in the next slide. You will clearly understand. So this is the problem. Smaller the cut. So if you close your thumb in your water course, what will happen? The water will eject fast. So that is good. But again, in the industries, there is something called eddies will form. There will be some dead ends. So that is how is there. In the next slide, this is a little bit confusing for you. In the next slide, you will understand everything very clearly. So remember, this is smaller the cut, more the pressure drop. You see, the more fluid will pass. So when you pass more fluid, you may have some eddies will be forming here. Okay, so when there is some eddies, it will not improve your heat exchanger heat transfer coefficient. And at the same time, you see lot of gap. So when there is a lot of gap, again at the top, you will have lot of eddies will be there. The fluid will go through this. So there is something called optimum. So this is what the optimum. So the baffle cut shall be optimum. So what is the optimum? 15 to 45% of the diameter of the maximum cut can be 15. So the baffle cut varies from 15% to 45%. The 45 being the maximum cut. You cannot go for more than 45. That means bigger. That means you will be in this range, 45. 15, you will be in this range. So what you should do, you have to be optimum. The optimum, again, make note of it. Standard is 20 to 25. 25 is standard. Baffle cut 25 is standard. Why 25 is standard? So this distance is 25. 25% of the shell diameter. That means if the shell diameter is 10 inch, so this 25% of that, how much? 2.5 inch, right? So this is what? Idea. I'm talking about all of idea. So remember, the baffle cut will be expressed in terms of percentage only. The optimum percentage will vary from 20 to 15. And it can go, based on special conditions, it can go from 14 to 45. But remember, you have to go by the standard. To have more optimum design, go by 20 to 25. Now, another important, very, very important, you have baffle orientation. This baffle can be oriented in horizontal or vertical. So vertical or horizontal. Sometimes vertical baffles call as parallel baffles. Some industries they may call. Horizontal, always horizontal, no doubt. But vertical, sometimes they call parallel, sometimes called vertical. So I'm calling as vertical. So horizontal means it is like up and down, like a river, it goes up and down. If the cut, this is called as horizontal orientation. And vertical orientation, it is like a snake. It goes like the snake, right? This is called as vertical and horizontal. Very important. Remember, people make mistakes. People made mistakes. Lot of failures have happened. Exchangers have designed wrongly. When there is liquid, remember, when there is liquid, you have to go for horizontal cut only. When there is two-phase with less than 20% of gas, horizontal cut is preferred. So horizontal cut, when there is two-phase, less than 20% of gas, horizontal cut is preferred. So where I can go for vertical cut? when there is gas. Remember, when there is gas, you have to go for vertical cut. And even there is more than 20% of two-phase, you have two-phase condensers. Okay, you have two-phase, more liquid and vapor, then more than 20% of gas, then you need to go for vertical cut. Vertical cut, remember. Condensation, go for vertical cut. Remember, this is very critical. This seems to be very small, but people made mistakes. Orientations. When you do this small orientation, what will happen? You will create a lot of dead spaces. Dead spaces. If you provide a gas stream, if you provide a horizontal for the gas stream, what will happen? The gas will not come down. Gas will go to the top. So you generally will have lot of dead spaces. Lot of dead spaces means less amount of heat transfer coefficient. Less amount of heat transfer coefficient means to increase the duty, you need to have a bigger exchanger. Exchanger size has to be made much bigger. Okay. So whatever we are saying is having a tremendous impact in your design. Remember this. So horizontal, vertical. Why have to go for vertical? Why have to go for horizontal? So make clear of this. So again, I want to stop with this because we are going to deal much more on the next topic. And if you have any questions, I can able to answer it. But time is limited. But I'll try to answer your questions. We have a separate topic on fluid allocations. No issues. I will discuss very detailed. There is a separate classes here. Tomorrow we will be discussing on some calculations also on heat transfer coefficient. So other than that, do you have any questions? Whatever we discussed here, please let me know.
There is a hand raise that has happened. Participant Amey, student Amey has raised a question. Yeah. Amey? Amey, you are able to ask? Or was it an accidental raise of hand? Exchangers in the beginning with different grades of heat exchangers. As a mechanical engineer or as an instrumentation engineer, would I be able to understand these different types or the grades of the exchangers from the P&ID drawings and the symbols?
Grades means RCB. That is what you are talking about. RCB, no. RCB, you have to go to the data sheet. Only in the data sheet only you can understand. You cannot see from the P&ID itself. No.
Okay. So in the P&ID we can understand from the symbols for the evaporation.